Dan, I got a serious question for you here today. I need to know, when's the last time you've just wasted your time?
I have never wasted any time. I am always in productive mode. But I have a question for you because you have kind of stirred up a little bit of a hornet's nest here in the firewood world. I mean,
Come
I've been
on.
seeing requests for they want me to organize and get a hold of a wrestling ring so we can have a steel cage match at
That's
the Bunyan show
silly.
next year. And it's crazy.
You're wasting my time, and now you're wasting everyone's time. There is no debate. And I am not here. I do not defend myself. I try to be as transparent as I can. There are still just some things I'm not comfortable talking about. I learned as a child, you never ask an adult how much money you make. But I do feel the need to defend the business model at times. And I really, I mean, you shouldn't make comments like this because, everything I got's out there. I don't think I have ever once said, don't do it like this, you're wrong. I show what I do. What I feel that needs to be done is to defend the business model. And I cannot just now sit back anymore and let, even though this wasn't the essence of the video, but it's underlying this, is this just incorrect, wrong, and silly belief that fewer touches equals more money in firewood. And that was the reason behind the video.
So yeah, for those of you that may be wondering what in the heck we're talking about, Joe put out a video just explaining his thoughts and his ways of doing things that work for him when it comes to stacking or piling firewood. And there was a lot of people that, kind of felt like you were ruffling feathers or that they were getting their feathers ruffled. And it's become like kind of this topic of controversy. But
there's no controversy. There is no controversy, and I just do not want people, when I'm just speaking from experience, because I think I had just believed that as well. Before I ever became a firewood delivery service, when I was I still am heating my house with wood, I would always stand out there amongst all my firewood and I would think, maybe I should sell firewood and use that money to buy propane. And then I thought, well, after doing all the numbers in my head, I was like, no, that ain't going to work, because to me, the wood's worth more to me as wood than it is to cash. I couldn't see the exchange here for cash for propane. It was better to heat with wood. And I just always had that understanding, because that's what you've always heard, that, you can't, there's no profit in firewood. It's a low margin enterprise. And therefore you can't, everything that you have to do has to be based on the minimal, whatever you want to call it, the maximum efficiency, minimal touching.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's just 100% wrong. Anyone who believes that, I have a robot on Mars that I want to sell to you when it comes back to Earth. It is just not true. And that is what I try to talk about with commodity. Firewood is a commodity. It's just like livestock, beef, produce. I use notebook paper, which is a commodity. I looked this up on the internet. A commodity, it is something that is either mined or extracted or produced, that it doesn't matter who makes it, it's all the same. And, firewood fits into that. Yeah, you can see that may not always be the case. There's different grades of it, but every commodity out there has value added to it. Gold's made into jewelry, or it's put into cell phones, and livestock is cut into different cuts of beef, or it's ground into hamburger. But all of this, for whatever reason, there's an asterisk next to firewood, and it's like firewood, excluding firewood, and it permeates the thought process in the industry, and it's just incorrect. And for people out there who are looking to get into firewood that might get tricked into thinking that that's the case, and it is not the case. So my video was intended just to show that stacking firewood serves a purpose and it adds value. And the biggest frustration that I had was I missed a major point in my video.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And I disappoint myself a lot. But where I really disappointed, and I even said it, but I missed it in the video, was I actually make more money. And I'm serious. I had to really think on this here, make sure that I'm accurate on this. I make more money stacking firewood than I do making firewood. So
Ooh.
go figure that
There's
out.
a little mind twister for you this morning. Here,
Yeah,
now,
but
think about
it
this.
also creates a problem for me because you can't have one without the other. But
Yeah.
I make more money stacking firewood than I make firewood. So tell me, why is stacking firewood wasting my time? You know what they would say, because you could be making more firewood and you'd have more to sell. But to me, I see it different. When I'm just going to base this on my local area and what I know. Up north of me is a large Amish population, and I think it's like a state law that they must have firewood for sale in their front yard, because every Amish family up through there, if I drive up north up to Orwell and Middlefield, everyone's got firewood for sale in their front yard. And it used to be $150 a cord. But now with the prices are just crazy. Yeah. When I first started, it was $150 a cord, and it's nice firewood. It's stacked. It's 16-inch. It's nicely split, and it's all hardwood. So now the price is 200 to 225. It's right in that range. So when I make and process a cord of firewood, and it's in my trailer, or if it's laying on the ground, it is worth $225. If I stack that wood, now I don't have local pickup, but I just have it in my head. What could I charge people, to come to my yard and buy this? And I think to buy seasoned firewood, especially in the wintertime, I still probably wouldn't sell cords. I would either sell thirds or quarters. You can more than double, $225. What's 500 divided by 4, Dan? Mr. Math Major.
125.
Yeah, come on. $125 for local pickup for a quarter cord of firewood. I could do that all day long. So I more than doubled the value of my firewood. Now, okay, it's got to sit there. I got to pay someone to stack it, but I mean, $20 an hour to stack firewood, I think that's a good deal. So that is it. I make more money stacking firewood than I do making firewood. So that kind of defeats this idea of touching firewood. Now, if you are selling, and that's where and I'm getting tired of even having to state this disclaimer.
Let's count to 10 here. Let's just take a step back. Let's calm down.
Yeah, if you split and sell, go for it. There is all kinds of different markets out there. Split and sell, split and set, until someone comes to get it, or season it and deliver. There's small firewood. There's bundles. There's cooking wood. There's all sorts of different markets that are out there. But if you are split and sell, then go for it. But what I would say, if you are selling seasoned firewood, it costs more than split and sell. And I think that is where some of the problem lies, is that, I don't know, some people think that the going rate for the firewood is the going rate. I've gotten a number of comments, not from this video, but over the years, of people. I had this one guy. He says, Joe, I'm looking at your operation and your numbers aren't adding up. He said that the wood that you're selling, the volume that's going out, I don't see how you could possibly pay your rent and have all these machines. And he even provided some math for me, and he was basing, now this is a couple of years ago, he was basing the sale of my cords at $150, which is just ridiculous. I mean, that would be like today saying that you're selling it for $225. What the heck? If you can sell a quarter cord delivered for $200 and you can fit 2 of those quarter cords into your pickup truck, what are you now averaging top line sales for a cord of firewood?
So one load is 400. That's half a cord, so that would be 800 for a full cord.
Okay.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? It's a little bit more than $150 or $225.
Yes,
so,
it is.
Yeah. Now, when you're a sole proprietor, and this is, I think, causes some people frustration. I try to show as much as I can, and I really do think that if you have been following along, you know darn well what I'm making. And I admit that I have been coy with some of this because, I don't know, there's some privacy here. And I also am very uncomfortable talking about how much money, I would make, because it's kind of boasting and stuff. And I just think, I'm just uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always kind of been in the same boat, and something that even way back to the days of wrestling, the very first thing you learn when you get your first payout is you never share with anyone what you were paid. It's between you and the promoter, and that is it. And with firewood, I think it's the same thing. It's between you and your customer, what you charge, what you get paid. Those numbers are meant for 2 people, you and the customer.
Yeah. And I would also say too that probably what I make is irrelevant to whoever's wanting to maybe apply their own lifestyle or their own business model to the way I'm doing this, because, your mileage may vary. And that's where I also, some of the irony here too is what I just said, I'm not comfortable sharing it. And number 2, everything I have said about being a corporate rebel and that I eschew paperwork is 100% true. And that's what I also tell people too that might not get into business because they don't have the accounting background. You don't need it. If you can balance a checkbook, you can do it. And don't let anyone ever tell you different. It's got its limitations, but for people that don't want to stack wood because it's a waste of time, because you can be making more firewood, well, I'll tell you that I think accounting as a sole proprietor is a waste of time, because you could have been spending that time making more firewood. Serious.
Yeah, I agree.
What is it? Yeah. What is it, Dan, that if I am doing this all by myself, and if I'm going to spend however much time calculating out cost of goods delivered, earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization, if I'm going to what about the taxes, Dan? And then I'm going to calculate my fuel and my oil and this and my that, at the end of the day, okay, I have this number in front of me, but what am I going to do about it?
Nothing.
If I see that I'm going to do nothing about it.
Nothing.
If you calculated all this fuel that you used, Dan, what are you going to do next month?
Right. You still have to use that fuel, or you stop producing. You have no choice. If you figure out how many gallons of fuel you're running through your chainsaw and the number of gallons of bar oil you're using, the next month you still have to use those things to cut and produce firewood.
Yeah. And that's why it's, to me, is a waste of time. Now, if I had employees, I'd try to keep track, because I'd want to make sure that they're not filling up their own truck when they're out on the road, or if there's other ways that we can be more efficient because you've added a level of complexity to it. Or if I was looking for a business loan and the lender is wanting some more robust calculations on the profitability of my business. But I'm just saying, as a sole proprietor, you don't need to do all of that. And I chose not to, because I spent 22 years doing it, and I'm not going to do it anymore. I am an operator, and this is what I enjoy doing. And I know what I spent in gas last month. I know how much money I spent out on logs, and I know how much money I made, and I know how much money is in my bank account, and that's good enough for me.
And you don't, if you like it, yeah, well, you were saying, if you do know, if you do take the time to figure all that stuff out, then how can you also argue that you're wasting time stacking firewood? Because when you figure out all of those numbers and do all the calculations, what does that do other than cost you time to do it?
Yeah.
So
I guess you could say, yeah, that's where I'm saying. Well, I would say, well, you would know, you'd have a better idea of how much, money. No, I wouldn't, because I know how much money I'm making. Well, you would know about your cost of goods delivered and if you're making, and this and that. And I'm just saying that's a waste of time to me. And it's not a requirement. It's my business. I'll do what I want. And it's working so far for me.
I suppose you could use it, though, to change your pricing if you were finding that you were losing money, but you would know you were losing money, like you mentioned, at the end of the day when your bank account is negative.
Yeah, or if my wife is staring at me with a or she's got like the monster.com website up for me.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting. And there's aspects of this that I'm starting to find out, when I'm with my whole thing of like, I didn't realize like how much tape I'm using to package boxes, how much boxes cost. But to your point, at the end of the day, if I figure all that stuff out, all it does is just then, next month I need to order more boxes. I need those boxes. So I can't all of a sudden say, well, I'm not ordering any more boxes because guess what? Then I'm not shipping any firewood. So yeah. Then I'm not making anything.
And I think you've already been looking around for the cheapest vendor for boxes anyways.
Yes. There's not very many out there that you can get them from. So your choices are pretty limited.
Yeah. Yeah. So the bottom line for that video, I wish I missed a couple things. I wish I would have, and I had some more jokes about how ugly I think bins are. But some of those I had to cut out. I was showing more of the 12, I got 12 triaxle loads of logs in my yard right now, and it hurt spending that money. I'm here to tell you. But the blind spots that I had, it really revolves around the business model and the silly, incorrect belief that somehow firewood has magically been removed from all of the intricacies and business implications of commodity life. Yeah. The more you process firewood, the more valuable it becomes.
And I think we still need to do that commodity episode.
Yeah, we should do that.
We should dive a little deeper. We should do a little deeper dive with this. Let's stick a pin in this for now. And we'll come back to it. But yeah, I think the takeaway for me that was fun from your video is reading the comments of people that agree with the stacking debate. And I think that's where sometimes you get a sense of things might be one-sided because you see a lot of stuff and people comment on only one thing, but then you come along and you do your video and then you see that there's other thoughts. There's people that agree with you just as much as people don't agree with you. So at the end of the day, you weren't telling people what they should do. You were explaining what you do.
I think that was true. And well, I also showed some shortcomings in the way it's being analyzed about this magic poof button. And I'm serious because I am going to be loading my trailer off of a pile later today. It stinks. I hate doing it because, you get your trailer as close to the pile as you can. But then as you start getting into it, you're farther away and you got to toss it even farther. And then you're pulling it out sometimes from underneath. And then there's a cave in, you get your shins banged and I just can't stand it. Yeah, I used to leave stuff in a pile. I can even show you where my biggest pile was. And I still remember being out there with a wheelbarrow and pulling stuff out of it. It had snow on it. And every time you'd pull one out, the snow would fall down on your bare skin behind your glove and your sleeve of your shirt. And gosh, yeah, I don't like.
I know exactly what you mean.
But, there's also, too, the volume that I do. I would think that there could come a time with volume and stuff where it may not become practical, or I would argue maybe not. I would just add another person with stacking. To me, it's just so much more efficient. You don't need machines. I had one guy, he referred me to another channel about you should deliver wood like this guy. All he had, was like an $80,000 mini excavator. I was like, come on, this is just not realistic. It's just I'll pull up my $5,000 pickup truck to the side of this pile of wood sitting on top of a row of wood sitting on top of a pallet, and I will plop it into the back of my truck. It's very inexpensive, very efficient.
All right. Well, so we're not signing any contracts yet for WrestleMania, Woodhound WrestleMania at Bunyan.
I wish you wouldn't even say that. I think that is just.
Well, I'm saying it in a way of mocking.
Why and why is that even directed? I don't talk bad about anyone. I like all people. I like all different ways of doing things, and people should not jump to conclusions because that's just not the case.
No, that's where I think the misconception is that as soon as somebody has different opinions, I think people look at it as that we're going after each other. I saw, a comment about like all this. It seems like the Woodhound community is going after each other, but I don't think that's the case. It's just we have people have different ways of doing things, and people are just saying what they think, and you're showing what you do. And
yeah, that was a real frustrating comment that person left because it's true, and that is my opinion. But just because I presented the way I do things, that's the way people interpret all that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know, that's just not the case. Yeah.
So we are all good. Everything is good in the Woodhound hood.
We're holding hands and singing Kumbaya.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
As we bring the end of the year to a close here, which reminds me, Joe, we only have 2 episodes left of 2024.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
And then our third year, is it third or second year anniversary would be coming up, right? The end of
March?
End of February.
Yeah. Right. March,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was 2/22/22 was our first episode.
Was it?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, because I thought we're going to make a T-shirt.
So you won't keep track of how much gas you put in your saw, but you keep track of stuff like that. See, that's 2/22/22. That could be it. I don't know. Maybe that's when we did record.
Get that bumper sticker on the back of my truck. The next one would say, "Don't follow me, I'm lost." So, yeah.
All right. Well, I think
Dan, let's leave people with this belief though. Go ahead and do whatever you want if you are in firewood. Stack, pile, poof it, whatever. But just please, please, please don't be a hobbyist.
We almost didn't get the jingle in, but now we got the jingle in. And with that, I think we should strike up the band.
You think?
Yep.
Okay, let's strike up the band.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of the Woodhounds podcast, the #1 firewood podcast in the universe.
Yeah. And if I began today's episode asking Dan if he ever wasted time, well, now he can say, yes, he has. Okay, Dan, so let's just tell everyone out there to do
whatever they want.
And try to
not pay attention to what others think. I don't know.
And have
a great day.